honorable members of parliament, donor partners, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, senior government officials, security personnel, members of the fourth estate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, pleasant and a very good morning. On behalf of the Honorable Minister of Energy, the Honorable Alhaji Dr. Kanja Ibrahim Singh, the Office of the Chairman, Presidential Initiative on Climate Renewable Energy and Food Security, Dr. Kande Kole Yomkela, donor partners, the organizers of these 2 days consultative meeting of the energy sector roundtable energy conference. It is with great humility and pleasure that I now call this meeting to order. And on that note, since the Muslims and Christians are currently observing the Lent and Ramadan respectively, I will respectfully request that we have silent prayers in order to evoke the presence of God for His guidance in the rest of our deliberations. Amen. Amen. Your Excellency, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Energy to thank you all for honoring our invitation to this 2 days consultative meeting of the energy sector roundtable conference on the theme Countdown 2030 Sustainable Energy for All. This simply means by 2030, we would have aspired to become an inclusive green middle-income country with the private sector-led growth, creating value-added products, increasing access to job opportunities, especially for our youth. And it also means by that time, as a country, we should have been able to put or have in place a very sound and effective environmental management system that has the capability to protect biodiversity and preempt environmental disasters. It also means by that time we should have been able to ensure we have a climate resilient and climate compatible economy that will lead to having a low carbon growth path for Sierra Leone. And your presence here this morning is a clear demonstration of your commitment, your dedication on our journey from power poverty to energy sufficiency. And that being said, it is with great pleasure and I now have the singular honor to respectfully and humbly invite Mr. Cyril Grant, the Senior Technical Advisor at the Ministry of Energy, to kindly take us through the most immediate segment of this program. Mr. Cyril Grant, please.
Thank you, sir. As per our agenda for today, I hereby now call Dr. Abdul Mwonge, the Country Manager, World Bank Group, and the co-chair of the Energy Sector Steering Committee to make a welcome address.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, and Brigadier Julius Malayo, Honorable Ministers present, Ambassadors present, fellow development partners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, you are welcome to the fourth Energy Roundtable that we are happy to co-host jointly with the government and partners this morning. I'll be very brief. My job is to invite my co-chair, the Honorable Minister of Energy, who will be coming to present a stock of what we have been doing collectively, government and development partners, in the progress for the energy reforms in Sierra Leone. Our job as co-chairs for the Energy Sector Coordination Committee is to enhance coordination and communication. And my only point today is to say we will be continuing the conversation on how best to coordinate in the sector and to improve communication, anchoring our efforts through the Ministry of Energy. I know it's work in progress and a lot needs to be done, but I just want to make that point that we need to improve coordination and communication, and over the coming months, weeks to come, we will ensure that we do exactly that, working closely with the Honorable Minister of Energy. Honorable Minister of Energy, the floor is over to you.
His Excellency President, Brigadier was part of you. My co-chair, Mr. Abdul Mwangi, the World Bank Country Manager, Chairman, Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security, Excellencies, colleague ministers, distinguished guests, friends all of the United States, good morning. Allow me, Your Excellency, to please recognize the presence of the following distinguished personalities who have been working with us on the long journey to increase our energy access. Let me recognize the presence of the United States Ambassador, His Excellency Brian David Hunt, the British High Commissioner, Mr. Shakespeare, Ambassador Manuel Moela of the European Union, the Irish Ambassador, Madam Aoife van der Lans, CEO of the Clean Cooking Alliance, Mr. Mohamed Sharif, General Manager of Transco, Mr. Ashish Khanna, Practice Manager, World Bank Group, Franz Rescross, the Regional Director of the World Bank, Robert Serno, Country Director, World Bank, Madam Halima Ashish, Country Manager, African Development Bank, I hope she's here, Itoshi Satsu, JICA Resident Representative, Dr. Cornelius Pat, CEO and founder, Voltaris. Ms. Christiane Pratt, CEO of Green Europe. Mr. William Blight, Senior Research Fellow, FCDO. Steve Bruder, Country Director, MCC. Karim Nasser, TCP Power Limited. Secretary, Energy Transition Team, and Dr. Cyril Jalo, CEO, Africa. Please forgive me if I have jumped any other distinguished personality here. These were the ones that I captured while looking through the room. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a special welcome to Hishi, Brigadier Julius Malabi, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. It is truly an honor to have you join us today to grace this occasion and to accept to give keynote address. Your presence speaks volumes about your commitment to the sector specifically and to our national development plans generally. On 1st January 2016, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which was adopted by world leaders in September 2015 at an historic UN summit, officially came into force. Therefore, today, in March 2024, we are barely 6 years away from the lofty deadline. With the theme, Countdown to 2030, Sustainable Energy for All, the overall objective of our energy sector roundtable is to provide a platform for discussion among us, the government of Sierra Leone, our technical and financial development partners, civil society and the private sector on the status of our sector for both electricity access and clean cooking goals. This meeting aims at strengthening the sectoral dialogue with development partners and encourages collaboration and leverage in funding and interventions for financial and operational effectiveness. The roundtable hopes to facilitate A, the exchange of information on the status of the electricity sector in Sierra Leone, coordination of sectoral activities of the technical and financial partners for improved effectiveness of interventions, dialogue and communication of policy goals between the government, development partners, private sector and civil society, joint funding of interventions, and leveraging of funding in line with international recommendations on aid effectiveness and private sector investment. The key expected outcomes are consensus on the assumptions for the development of the energy sector, institutional, infrastructure, market organization and regional integration, consensus on the short-term measures, technical, commercial, financial, in order to advance the reform of the energy sector, understanding and update of the status of government's proposal for the private sector intervention in ESA operations, agreement on the concrete measures and commitments from the technical and financial development partners to implement reform that will enable the sector to achieve sustainability and secure investments in energy. Your Excellency, I'm happy that a wide cross-section of stakeholders have accepted our invitation. This promises to be a forum in which the urgency of the issue at hand, that is, universal access to energy, will galvanize us to consider all options, policy, investment landscape, sector confidence, and sustainability of profile solutions. It is especially gratifying that the MCC are conducting high-level missions at this time. Coincidentally, the World Bank and the African Development Bank are also conducting reviews of existing energy projects. With the MCC, the government of Sierra Leone remains committed to the compact development process, and my ministry, along with other stakeholders, have continued to provide support to ensure that the feasibility studies for the energy compact remain intact. It is instructive that His Excellency will launch the groundbreaking multi-tier electrification framework. In addition, the World Bank will present the Action Plan 2030, and we will all hear about the work of the proposed transaction advisory for the private sector participation in ESA. At the governmental level, we believe that sustainable energy access can only be achieved with a clear plan that secures an energy mix with large, renewable and affordable generation, reduced losses and efficient distribution. Fortunately, our donor partners also believe in the same. It is a constant work in progress. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we look towards a transformational future. There have been several sectoral and institutional reforms, some of which I would like to mention. The National Electrification Strategy and Plan. Government, with the assistance of the World Bank, through the Enhancing Sierra Leone Energy Access Project ISLI, is progressing the National Electrification Strategy and Plan. Much work has been done to date, and under the leadership of the Ministry, we will secure broad consensus to refine and adopt the NES by Q2 of 2024. Private sector participation in ERSA. While ERSA's overall collection rates has improved, the utility is still hampered by challenges around metering and electricity theft through illegal or multiple connections, incorrect tariffs, and continuous instances of wicked and sometimes politically motivated vandalism and theft across the country. 2 years ago, the Cabinet approved exploring private sector participation to revamp the management and operations of ERSA. This decision stemmed from the urgent need to address ERSA's financial losses and improve service delivery quality. We believe that partnering with a private entity will enhance efficiency, ensure sustainable energy provision, minimize commercial and technical losses, and relieve the strain on government finances. While we note progress on this, we are anxious that it takes off the ground immediately. Accordingly, we note the arrival of the transactions advisor. Recognizing ERSA's pivotal role in our infrastructure, substantial capital infusion and technical expertise are imperative for its transformation. We eagerly anticipate collaborations with private parties and developers willing to contribute equity, share risks, and foster an institution committed to delivering efficient and effective services. Transformation of EGTC. Over the past 2 years, EGTC has been undergoing a transformational phase, facing challenges exacerbated by insufficient capital for essential maintenance. This situation has notably impacted the effectiveness of its generation sites in Freetown, located in Kintom and Blacko Road. Furthermore, the escalating fuel cost of power generation across the nation, coupled with ERSA's inability to meet payment obligations, have further hampered EGTC's operations. Nevertheless, the government foresees EGTC evolving to focus on transmission, dispatch management, and providing standby security power to the Freetown network, especially with the establishment of the National Transmission Network and the growing significance of regional energy trade. Despite these challenges, the Bumbuna 1 hydro plant remains EGTC's primary asset, with ongoing efforts to enhance its operational capacity and secure full management of the plant's operations. In a bid to address these issues, the government, in collaboration with the World Bank, has initiated a feasibility study to explore the possibility of leasing out all of EGTC's generation assets to a private entity. Similar to the PSP strategy adopted by ERSA, this move aims to inject private capital into EGTC, fostering greater efficiency and profitability, thereby relieving the strain on government's finances. We are optimistic at the transformative possibilities of the sector in energy policy, regulation, sector institutional reform, transmission, distribution, and generation. Distribution status. The Energy Sector Utility Reform Project, ISOP, a World Bank and Government of Sierra Leone endeavor. The distribution network in Freetown has undergone Significant upgrade and expansion comes to the use of the project. This project aims to enhance power evacuation and supply to both urban and rural areas in Freetown, with particular focus on Freetown East. Key actions include the upgrade of 2 substations at Falcon Bridge and Kleintown, each equipped with a power transformer, as well as the construction of 3 new primary substations at Aberdeen, Jui, Waterloo, each also with a power transformer. Additionally, the project involves improving the quality of power supply in Freetown by replacing switchgear in 3 existing primary substations: Wilberforce, Roportine, and Wellington. This project has been challenging, but will be completed by May 2024. The Bo Kenema Transmission Network Rehabilitation Project, funded by FCDO and AFDB, which consists of the design, supply, installation and commissioning of 2 primary substations and rehabilitation of 2 existing substations. The design, supply, installation and commissioning of 166 kV overhead transmission line between Bo and Kenema, and rehabilitation of the distribution network. The supply and installation of 50,000 prepaid energy meters with service drops. The project is well advanced and is expected to be completed December this year. The 7 district headquarter towns electrification project. Under the directive of His Excellency the President, we undertook the construction of distribution networks funded by government at Kambia, Kabala, Ujeongbon, Kailam, Moyamba, and Matrujon. We have also procured the thermal generation plants for all these locations, with 4 installed currently. The O&M contractor is being procured to run and manage these institutions, these installations, and this project will come upstream as soon as possible. Transmission status and achievements. In transmission, our goal is the establishment of the national transmission network with the Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea transmission line as the backbone. Several substation lines are planned, connecting the 5 substations at the CLSD to major towns, agro-processing and mining centers along its path. A constituent part of the national transmission network is the proposed dispatch facility to be located at Newton. EGTC will transform its operations to fully become the National Dispatch Authority, a necessity for internal networks and coordination with regional interconnection and energy trade. We look forward to the MCC compact that will make this a reality. The CLSD transmission line. This line is a 1,300-kilometer transmission corridor and has been completed from Côte d'Ivoire through Liberia, Sierra Leone to Guinea. In Sierra Leone, it is a 530-kilometer interconnection through 5 substations at Kenema, Bikongo, Bumbuna, Fadugu, onto Kamakwe. We continue to purchase energy from Sierra Energy for supply of power to Freetown, Bo, Kenema, and Kono. The connection to Guinea will provide us with completion and redundancy of supply for reliability. The CLSD provides specific interconnection lines, including a 33 kV transmission line from Bumpet to Koidu, a 33 kV transmission line from Bumpet to Optia Mining. Similar requests for interconnection have been received from Maramba Mines Limited, Maya Mining, Wongo Investments, and King Ho, with a total anticipated demand of 125 megawatts. ISLIP, a World Bank and government endeavor, government of Sierra Leone. Through this project, a number of grid extensions are being instituted. For the Freetown network, construction of new transmission lines between Kintom, Congo Cross and Aberdeen, Kintom to Falcon Bridge to Blackwell Road to Wellington, Wellington to Juwe to Waterloo, Benguima, and Buea to Regent. A line between Kabbalah and the Farugu substation of CLSD line, connecting the Tiloma-Kenema substation through Daru, Shikwema, Baima, and Pendembo to Kailamu. Connecting the distribution network in Punyam to the CLSD line in Buturu, also supplying the communities and villages along this corridor. And 80% of this project will be completed by December this year. The India-Exim funded transmission line, which is a construction of a 200-kilometer transmission line linking the Sierra Leone station at T-Bend to Freetown via substations at Oloko and Newton. This is a critical component of phase 1 of the proposed national transmission network, which will bring bulk power to major load centers throughout the country. EPC tendering and evaluation is complete. We are expecting no objection from the bank for award of the contract no later than quarter 2, 2024. JICA, phase 2. The objective of this project is to expand and stabilize the power supply in the southern part of the Freetown Peninsula through constructing new substations and distribution network. Specifically, a 33 kV line from Godrich substation to Sussex and Tumbu substations that terminating at Waterloo. This will complement the previously completed phase 1 project that installed an 11 kV line from Godrich to Sussex. Generation status and achievements. In power generation, while the ministry is advancing several projects in partnership with private developers, we continue to face soaring costs for energy, cost of fuel, maintenance and repairs required for EGTC assets around the country. To address this, we are progressing the following projects. Phase 1 of the Western Area Power Generation Project, 83.5 megawatts. Millennium Energy and TCP Power Limited have secured financing to the tune of $217 million from the United States International Development Finance Corporation. All partners are in Freetown to conclude the final documentation for financial closure. Construction works and implementation will commence in quarter 2, 2024, the targeted completion date 2026. Bikongo 3 hydropower project. Located in Bikongo Falls, upstream of Sierra River, Kenema district. Feasibility study has been conducted for the design, finance, construction, installation, operation, maintenance, and transfer of 160 megawatts hydropower electrical plant. Cabinet approval and parliamentary ratification have been secured, awaiting financial closure. Serengeti Energy Bauma, 5 megawatt solar park, privately financed, installation completed, power generation to the Bokenema network commenced in mid-November 2022. Phase 2 negotiation for an additional 20 megawatts is on the way. Goma Hydro, upgrade of the dam output capacity from 6 megawatts to 9 megawatts. Funding alternatives have been considered, possibly including from the MCC government. Mini-grid status. Your Excellency, in the last 5 years, solar mini-grids have increased access to energy in rural communities throughout Sierra Leone. Single-handedly, the Rural Energy Project RRP, with 98 mini-grids, is the largest rollout of renewable projects in West Africa. RRP continues to be a showcase endeavor, the envy of our neighbors, and an inspiration for other mini-grid projects. We continue to discuss and consider policy that will promote sustainability of the grids. Subsequently, we envision that the management and distribution and coordination of rural energy will be a central activity of the ministry with the following focus: take up the management and implementation mantle of RRE and other rural energy initiatives, energy transition and energy green growth. Today marks a pivotal moment in our nation's journey towards a sustainable future. As we gather here, it is my pleasure to announce the launch of the Interministerial Committee on Energy and Energy Transition, a crucial step in shaping a resilient and inclusive energy landscape for generations to come. In closing, the sector shall reconvene the Energy Steering Committee to be co-chaired by myself and the World Bank country manager. Following the discussions here today, we will have actionable follow-up activities to inform future steering committee deliberations between the Energy Ministry, other energy stakeholders, and non-partners. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, energy remains a significant challenge for our national budget, and we recognize the strain it places on both the Minister and the Minister of Finance. However, I am cautiously optimistic due to the substantial increase in revenue over the past several months. I extend heartfelt appreciation to the World Bank for their facilitation of this year's conference. Gratitude is also extended to all participating institutions whose contributions and discussions over the next 2 days are invaluable. A special thank you extended to the Minister, Financial Secretary, and the Minister of Finance. To the staff and leadership of SIEGTC, thank you for your work. To my esteemed colleagues, including the Deputy Minister, Permanent Secretary, your selfless dedication is truly commendable. Thank you, Mr. Grant, for putting this together. Above all, I want to express my gratitude to His Excellency the President for supporting the sector through his emphasis on the relationship between energy and human capital development, and his approval for government support to the sector through broad projects of the national budget. The task of providing energy is undeniably costly and fraught with ongoing challenges, yet our government's dedication remains resolute. With all the ongoing and planned distribution, transmission, and generation projects, and the expansion of mini-grid 6 years to 2030, the work to achieve universal sustainable energy access is formidable but within our reach. All the elements required for transformative policy and implementation are in place, and it is my hope that the deliberations and presentations at this roundtable will galvanize collective efforts in this regard. Welcome again, and thank you all.
Your Excellency, Honorable Minister, and distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to ask several guests who are here to make statements, starting with Robert Talesio, the Country Director of the World Bank.
Excellency, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, retired Brigadier Julius Madapio, Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Minister of Energy, Honorable Ministers of the Republic, Members of Parliament, Ambassadors present, fellow development partners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I would like to first and foremost thank you, Mr. President, and your government for extending the invitation to the World Bank Group, and to use this opportunity to congratulate the government for organizing the 2024 Energy Sector Roundtable Conference. In my role as Country Director, I oversee the World Bank Partnership in Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. This is my first time to Sierra Leone, and I'm very excited to be here. And I'd like to extend my appreciation and the World Bank's appreciation to you and your administration for the strong engagement in implementation of the country partnership framework. I had a chance to meet with His Excellency this morning and was able to hear firsthand about the determination and ambition of this administration on the pillars of the National Development Plan, and we look forward to working closely with the government and other development partners on those ambitions. Your Excellency, this is the 4th Energy Roundtable convened by the government jointly with the World Bank and partners. The objective of this roundtable, as in past events, is for government to share Sierra Leone's energy reform process and to align all stakeholders behind the common sector goals. Each year you have participated in the Energy Sector Roundtable, underscoring the importance you place on reforming the energy sector in Sierra Leone. I think it's fantastic to see here this high-level commitment from the President, also Minister of Finance, Minister of Energy, all of the excellencies and officials around the table, as well as the development partners, and the fact that the room is now standing room only. I think that's a great sign for what will come in this sector now going forward. I'm delighted to note, Mr. President, that the World Bank Group has been a long-standing partner in Sierra Leone's power sector. We continue to support the government's agenda to reform the energy sector and improve its operations and commercial efficiency. And I know from our conversation that you're also very concerned about some of the areas for improvement that the sector currently faces. Our support will improve the distribution infrastructure in and around Freetown to help evacuate power from the western region to the eastern region and provide much needed electricity to industrial areas, which is absolutely vital for promoting private sector-led growth, not only higher growth levels, but also more equitable, more sustainable, and more resilient growth. We are supporting government efforts to increase energy access by extending the grid, as well as building mini-grids around the country. Your Excellency, I would like to congratulate the leadership of the Ministry of Energy for our strong partnership. We discuss, debate, and sometimes have different perspectives, but we find a mutual way forward to focus on improving Sierra Leone's energy sector. I would like to highlight a few achievements. Energy access has increased from 13.5% in 2013 to 36% in 2023. So excellent achievements over the past 10 years, but we'll need to increase more on access and even reliability. As you are aware, Sierra Leone is a forerunner of the Regional Emergency Solar Power Improvement Project, RESPIT, which will add 40 megawatts of solar power PV plants with battery storage to help Sierra Leone get access to clean and affordable power. It's also important for the climate change agenda, which the World Bank and others have increasingly embraced. By December 2024, under the ES-LEAP project, Sierra Leone will provide solar home systems to electrify 500 schools and 200 health centers across the country. I'm delighted to inform you that 7 mini-grids, including the one in Moyamba, are in advanced stages of implementation and expected to be completed by April this year. Your Excellency, this year's Energy Roundtable focuses on Sierra Leone's energy transition and providing sustainable energy for all. It could not have come at a better time when the World Bank Group has identified access to energy as one of its global challenge programs, where we'll work closely with clients to increase access to clean energy and measure these results at scale now around the globe in our new corporate scorecard. Sierra Leone is already embarking on this journey. To conclude, permit me to introduce Franz Driesgross, my colleague, Regional Director for Infrastructure for Africa West and Central, to speak about some specific aspects of our engagement in Sierra Leone. I thank you, Mr. President.
Your Excellency, Honorable President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Honorable Minister of Finance, Minister of Energy, Ministers of the Republic, colleagues in the development partner community, ladies and gentlemen. Let me join Rob in thanking Honorable President Madabio for convening this fourth energy roundtable and organizing it together with the World Bank. I think to all of us in the room today, it's not a secret that Sierra Leone's power sector has faced a lot of challenges over the years. With limited generation options, rising fuel prices, and increasing demand, EDSA has struggled to provide reliable power to Sierra Leoneans. And in particular, the high cost of producing thermal power with expensive heavy fuel oil has meant the government had to budget $36 million in 2023 to fund power purchases. That's money that wasn't available for health, wasn't available for education, wasn't available for other key priorities. And it's not sustainable for the energy sector, it's not sustainable for Sierra Leone. I think we all recognize that. In fact, we're very encouraged that the government has taken some really important steps over the past years to address this situation. As Rob mentioned, there has been tremendous progress in access. Rob mentioned over 10 years, Sierra Leone has gone from 13 to 36%. Just to give you an idea, I cover all of West and Central Africa. On average, Africa's electricity access rate increases by about 10 to 12 percentage points in a decade, right? So Sierra Leone has actually performed better than that over the past 10 years. So that's, I think, a nice development. The government also had and it's something to celebrate. The government's also had the courage to take the difficult step, frankly, of increasing power tariffs last October to reduce some of the fiscal stress that the energy sector imposes on the government's budget. So freeing up some resources, at least, for other key priorities. The Respite project, Rob just mentioned, it's a regional emergency solar power project where Sierra Leone is joined by Liberia, Togo, and Chad. I remember I was here a year ago when the loan agreements for that with the 4 countries were signed. We're here this week to see the completion of the procurement processes for those works to begin quickly. And I hope by the time that we all convene again in a year's time, those works will not only be awarded, but those works will be completed and 40 megawatts of power with battery storage will be feeding the Freetown grid. Finally, the government has shown some real commitment to move forward on private sector participation to improve EDSA's performance. On clean cooking, the government has also shown commitment to bring access to clean cooking fuel to Sierra Leoneans as it embarks on establishing a national clean cooking delivery unit and a national strategy for clean cooking. These are all commendable steps, but I think we all know that much more needs to be done at an accelerated pace to reach the government's goals by 2030. So with that, let me pass the microphone to my colleague Ashish Khanna. He's our practice manager for energy in West and Central Africa, and he'll present the action plan through 2030.
Good morning, everyone. His Excellency, the President, retired Brigadier President Julius Malapile, Honorable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'll be brief. Over the next 7 minutes, I'd like to present based on our global learnings an action plan that we believe is in the interest of the people of Sierra Leone, to be led by the government of Sierra Leone and supported by all the partners. I'm just going to wait for the slide to come and then I'll start as soon as possible. start, we already discussed the achievements Honorable Excellency that France mentioned about energy access, about respite. What we would like to present is what are the key pillars that would really help Sierra Leone going up to 2030. And there are three pillars that are essential. The first pillar is how do we bring down the cost of generation. As we see, one of the biggest impediments in West Africa, entire Africa, but definitely more so in West Africa, is to do with cost of generation. And that requires ability to move out of HFO completely. So our first pillar is really on green energy generation, where we believe that there is a potential to actually wean away completely from HFO. The responsibilities are with Ministry of Energy and EXA. The second is on improving EXA's performance, and that requires reducing EXA's losses. And the third is really because private sector's first interest of investing in any country is clarity of policy and regulatory framework, how we can actually have a policy and regulatory framework. So with these three pillars, it requires very clear milestones. We believe with your leadership, there is readiness to actually get all the elements of a policy and regulatory framework done by end of this year. But what is really important is to be able, by end of next year, to move to a least cost development plan for getting out of HFO, to have respite implemented, as France mentioned, when we come next year, the plants will be done, and demonstrate early achievements on EXA. And we believe over the next 2 years, you would be in a position to get Sierra Leone out of very expensive HFO and move towards much more lower cost advantages of solar and eventually hydro, but also some other sources as well. Now all of this, what does it lead to? It leads to increasing access to meet the universal access goals, but also, more importantly, free up the fiscal resources. I'll take very quickly 5 minutes of why this is very critical. Honorable Ministers, His Excellency, you are paying, unfortunately, an extremely high cost of 36 cents for the cost of power in the month of December for HFO. This has led to $57 million as the amount that was paid in the calendar year 2023 for all the power purchase, which incidentally, just to give a reference, was more than the revenues earned by EXA for the entire calendar year. And inability to move out of these expensive sources by 2030 may lead to an amount in excess of $1 billion that is really not affordable. All action plans should have very clear immediate steps with clear milestones. Our international experience suggests that one of the first things that would probably need to be done is to evaluate that can the country move out of HFO. Our analysis suggests that it will take, unfortunately, at least 2-3 years to move out of HFO, but that presents an opportunity to renegotiate the commercial arrangements. We really hope that the respite project can be implemented because it has both solar and batteries. We do believe there is a lot of scope for private sector investment in the interim as well, from private sector partners to do a lot more solar. But we believe in the immediate short term, the best opportunity is really greater power purchase from CLSG network. Ability to have greater power from CLSG network would require a transparent cash waterfall mechanism to pay for the power purchase. And that's something that would probably be a very important milestone needed over the next 2-3 years to increase from 10 megawatts to up to 50 megawatts from both Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire. By the way, Honorable Ministers, we are working with various countries, including Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, but also Ghana, to enhance the power that can be purchased and put in the pool. In medium term, of course, there are various other elements of transmission backbone that we heard from Minister of Energy with MCC support, hydro, and of course, a lot of investments that will continue to come from CLSG. The next pillar, and we believe this is really the heart of what is the constraint in entire Africa, including in Sierra Leone, that private sector requires certainty of cash flows, and cash flows will come from EXA. Unfortunately, there's $26 million of losses that can really be reduced in EXA, and we believe in the short run, there is technology that is today available on digitization of MIS and key performance indicators that can really help. All high-value consumers need to be connected with meters on a dashboard that is transparently available to everyone. And eventually, within a year, where we are very happy to support a public-private partnership for EDSA, in which the consultant is right now here. We are launching that initiative this week. And we really believe all the donors and all the private sector will have a consultative process of a bidding mechanism by which we can find the right private sector partner for EDSA that will need money from public and private sources to improve the efficiency. We really hope this can be done by end of the calendar year. And of course, there's a lot of money that is needed in terms of investments. The last slide is really that even after improving EDSA and lowering the cost of generation, Sierra Leone will need up to $890 million just on last mile energy access. And that will require the rollout of national electrification strategy that we have been partners of. It will require significant resources for mini-grid, significant resources for solar home systems as well. This will definitely be assisted by both a lot of donor contributions and partners, but even for greater financial ability of EDSA to expand its business. I will end the presentation by mentioning that we are all here to partner, and this action plan will become the basis for a greater support, because we really believe with all the achievements that have happened, Sierra Leoneans deserve universal energy access. Energy should be the engine of growth for sustainable growth, and definitely on the budgetary side, there has to be a much reduction of the subsidies. So with that, we will be partnering on this. This will be released over the next 2 months as part of our economic update. And thank you so much for it.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Mr. Lefio, for those comments. I see that we're going to need $890 million to 2030 to provide the access. We spoke about ED's revenue protection, improving collections, enhancing governance. Those are things that we are all excited about, and we hope we can work with you together with the Minister and management of the ministry to achieve the 2030 goals. At this point, it is my honor and pleasure to call on the representative of the African Development Bank to make a statement, Felicitas Atenga, who is the Country Program Officer. Felicitas.
Your Excellency, retired Brigadier General Dr. Julius Madabio, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Your Excellency, David Senge, Chief Minister, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers here present, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is with great pleasure that I take the floor on behalf of the African Development Bank at this energy sector roundtable conference with the theme Countdown to 2030, Sustainable Energy for All, Energy Transition and Climate Resilience. First and foremost, kindly allow me to express my deepest gratitude to the government of Sierra Leone for the excellent cooperation with the African Development Bank. The African Development Bank commenced its operations in 1966, and one of the projects financed at the time was an equity investment with the National Development Bank of Sierra Leone. This dynamic partnership has been reflected and will continue to be reflected in the implementation of important initiatives and investments expected to improve the lives of the people of Sierra Leone. Your Excellency the President, ladies and gentlemen, as we may all be aware, 600 million people continue to live without access to electricity in Africa, while sustainable energy for all also reports that there are currently 2.6 billion people without access to clean fuels and technologies for cooking, with 36% of them living in Africa. Despite the pressing needs to bridge these energy access gaps, it is of absolute importance that we do so, taking note of the very critical era in which we live, where the global energy landscape is undergoing its biggest transition in decades in terms of mitigating the sector's impact on climate change and moving towards net zero transmissions. Africa contributes only 4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. Although contributing only marginally to global warming, Africa is bearing a disproportionately high burden as one of the regions of the world most vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. The region's vulnerabilities stem from low socio-economic development, where lack of resources increases the future risk of not meeting sustainable development objectives. It is therefore imperative that countries like Sierra Leone focus on developing response measures through identifying and assessing disaster risks and strengthening collaboration and coordination with all stakeholders. The government's commitment to just energy transition and achieving long-term goals for mitigation in terms of reduction in CO2 emission levels of 10% by 2030, as stated in its 2021 nationally determined contribution, is highly commendable. The bank's operations in this energy sector, as well as other sectors, fully align with these new dynamics and aim to support achieving sustainable energy for all and climate change resilience. The bank is therefore committed to supporting Sierra Leone in achieving universal access to energy for its population, increasing access to electricity and fostering the use of renewable energy sources to anchor Sierra Leone's inclusive and sustainable development. The bank is one of the major development partners financing the ongoing CLSG interconnection project. The aim of the project is to provide reliable, sustainable, and affordable power in the region, allow grid expansion to isolated localities and rural areas, and encourage the connection of a larger number of households, schools, health centers, businesses, and industries to the national grid. This is expected to improve the socio-economic conditions of the population of Sierra Leone, especially those living in rural areas, through its positive influence on key components of poverty, which are health, education, income, and environment, while equally addressing the main drivers of fragility. The bank's total intervention for energy projects in Sierra Leone currently amounts to $67 million. These projects aim at providing clean energy, mitigating climate change challenges, as well as fostering the sustainable use of renewable energy resources. Your Excellency the President, ladies and gentlemen, by leveraging its experience of universal access to energy projects in West Africa, the bank's interventions are always designed not only to make connection affordable for low-income households, including women-headed households, but equally to build capacity and support financial viability strategies for the utility companies, thus boosting economic growth in these countries. Let me seize this opportunity to briefly highlight some of the opportunities available within the bank, which Sierra Leone can exploit to achieve sustainable energy for its population. population. The Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, SEFA, which is a multi-donor trust fund managed by the bank. It provides catalytic finance to unlock private sector investments in renewable energy and energy efficiency. We also have a range of technical assistance support programs to assist in regulatory reforms to enable environment for more investments in the country's energy sector. In conclusion, Your Excellency, allow me to reiterate our appreciation of the excellent partnership between the bank and the government of Sierra Leone, and to reassure you of the continuous support of the bank group to the government programs outlined in the new medium-term national development plan to ensure sustainable and inclusive development for the benefit of Sierra Leoneans. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicitas. I'd now like to call on the United States Ambassador, His Excellency Brian David Hunt, to the podium.
His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone, the Honorable Chief Minister, the Honorable Minister of Energy, the Honorable Minister of Finance, the Honorable Chair of the Presidential Initiative on Renewable Energy, Climate and Forestry, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers of Government, Honorable Members of Parliament, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, international and private sector partners, other distinguished guests, good morning. It's an honor for me to stand before you today at the launch of this Energy Sector Roundtable. The United States, through its various agencies and partnerships, recognizes the critical role that sustainable energy plays in Sierra Leone's ongoing development and prosperity. Energy is not just a commodity. It is the backbone of economic growth, healthcare improvement, educational advancement, and overall development of the country. In recent years, the United States government has invested significantly in Sierra Leone's energy sector. Our initiatives aim to enhance the country's energy infrastructure, facilitate Sierra Leone's energy transition, promote the use of renewable energy sources, create an environment conducive to private sector investment in this critical sector, and ensure that the benefits of energy access are broad and inclusive. In 2022, USAID Sierra Leone launched Health Grid, an initiative to provide sustainable electricity and other essential services to off-grid health facilities. Through Health Grid, 31 off-grid facilities will be electrified and provided access to the internet. Through the Development Finance Corporation, the United States government is providing over $200 million in debt financing to private sector partners to fund a 103.5 megawatt power plant, which will substantially increase access to energy for people all across Sierra Leone. Projects such as the Millennium Challenge Corporation's $40 million threshold program, which invested $18 million to drive institutional reforms, develop the national electricity sector roadmap, and encourage sustainable economic growth in the greater Freetown area, have already transformed lives and livelihoods. Building on the progress achieved during the threshold program, the MCC has also invested over $5 million to develop an electricity-focused compact program with Sierra Leone. While the MCC slowed its timeline for board approval of the compact following last year's elections, we have been significantly encouraged by the initial steps taken to proceed with an inclusive process to address concerns stemming from that contest. That is why, in December 2023, the MCC board reselected Sierra Leone as eligible to continue developing this compact, while noting its expectation of continued progress toward meaningful electoral reform prior to considering final approval. This week, my team will be hosting a delegation from the MCC as they visit Sierra Leone to learn firsthand how electoral reform efforts are advancing. I look forward to continued constructive engagement and progress on these issues, which could unlock the transformative potential of the proposed MCC compact to contribute to the broader efforts being discussed discussed in this roundtable to strengthen Sierra Leone's energy sector. The United States' commitment to partnering with Sierra Leone in the energy sector, however, extends beyond our financial investments. We are dedicated to sharing best practices, facilitating technical exchanges, and fostering a collaborative environment where knowledge and resources can be pooled for maximum impact between countries and among partners. The Power Africa initiative is a prime example of this approach, bringing together technical and legal experts, the private sector, and governments to work on increasing electricity access throughout sub-Saharan Africa, including here in Sierra Leone. Such work is critical, as government and international funding alone will not address Sierra Leone's energy needs. It is essential that we identify and address the roadblocks that are preventing international private sector investment in power generation in this country. Listening to and addressing private sector concerns is essential to making Sierra Leone's energy sector a competitive investment destination. And this begins with ensuring transparent management of the sector, establishment of market rates for purchase of power from private producers, and open tenders for potential investment opportunities. EDSA will need to transform itself into a fiscally solvent entity capable of purchasing power rates that incentivize private sector development of generation capacity. Today's roundtable represents a unique opportunity for all of us to renew our commitment to energy development in Sierra Leone. It's a chance to bridge gaps, identify challenges, and work collectively towards innovative solutions that will pave the way for a sustainable and prosperous energy future. I thank you very much for your time this morning and hope that we are able to continue to push forward on this journey together with optimism and determination to make a lasting impact on Sierra Leone's energy sector and the Sierra Leonean people. Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Hunt. We note your comments on the MCC mission that's here, and we hope to have discussions with them later on. We note your comments on the work that USAID has done and the EFC, and also the Power Africa Initiative. At this point, I would like to call the Head of Mission of the European Union, Ambassador Manuel Mueller.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, your Honorable Chief Minister, Minister of Energy, Minister of Finance, government ministers, members of Parliament, please allow me to stand on existing protocol. Let me first commend His Excellency the President of Sierra Leone and the Honorable Minister of Energy for organizing this energy roundtable with support of the World Bank. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to deliver a few words on this occasion. Indeed, this energy roundtable is an opportunity to recall that infrastructure development is at the heart of the partnership defined between the European Union and the African Union, ECOWAS, and more specifically Sierra Leone. Infrastructure to facilitate the transport, to access energy, and to be connected to the network at the backbone of our global gateway approach. They lead to the social economic development. Thus, regarding the energy sector, the European Union has supported Sierra Leone to be connected to the West African Power Pool via Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea line, and to extend the grid from this line to electrify 32 villages. The EU is still supporting the West African Power Pool by co-financing multi-country connections and the development of the market regulations. We are very happy that the CLSG line and its extensions have improved the access to electricity in Sierra Leone, and we are very hopeful that the West Africa Power Pool will contribute to the development of the West African economies. In the Global Gateway approach, we consider also that the private sector has a role to play by providing its expertise and diversifying the sources of financing. With the theme Countdown to 2030, Sustainable Energy for All, I have no doubt that financing needs and private sector will occupy a large place in the discussions in this energy roundtable. The electricity sector is a commercial one. It requests a high level of financing. As a result, it is particularly adapted for the private companies' involvement, notably in the financial and legal frameworks that allow them to operate a sustainable economic model. The European Union and its member states have been supporting with success such private companies to develop their activities, especially in the solar generation and the off-grid areas, to accelerate access to electricity in Sierra Leone. In the framework of our ongoing cooperation, we especially want to support green mini-grid sector. Indeed, we agreed with the Ministry of Energy that in villages located far from the grid, the green mini-grids can foster the access to electricity, improve the social services, and develop the local economy with productive use of energy. And we congratulate the Ministry for its approach. However, in a context of global uncertainties affecting all economies around the world, and notably in Sierra Leone, the mini-grid sector has suffered severely from high inflation and sharp currency depreciation. For some time, the financial and legal frameworks regulating the sector do not allow the private developers to operate sustainably and to develop their activities. We therefore hope that the regulations will quickly restore the conditions for sustainable operation of the green mini-grid. I thank you again for your attention, and I wish you a fruitful energy roundtable. I am sure that the EU will continue to stand alongside Sierra Leone to develop on a daily basis a partnership that is a source of development, democracy, peace and stability. And I would like to congratulate His Excellency for having chosen energy as one of the important pillars of his government's policy to develop the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Mueller. Your Excellency, I think I've committed a diplomatic faux pas, and I hope that Your Excellency will offer me protection from His Majesty's government for having missed Ambassador Lisa Chisney in order. But I did that on purpose, actually. The Irish ambassador, unfortunately, could not be here, and I thought it would be better to have Lisa actually round off the group of diplomatic ambassadors in making a statement. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the ambassador from the United Kingdom, Lisa Chesney.
Your Excellency, President Leo, Honourable Chief Minister, Honourable Ministers of Energy, Finance, the Chairman of PCREF, Honourable Ministers, Deputies, Dignitaries, please permit me to stand on existing protocol. Now, as well as growth, greater productivity and employment, energy to me means empowerment. And I saw that firsthand last month at the Orodjiri Hospital, one of the 5 referral hospitals that the UK helped go solar last year. And the pride on the face of medical staff as they told me they could focus on their patients and doing their jobs because they weren't thinking about running the generators, just really showed me how energy underpins every single aspect of this country's development, and you've heard it here today. So that's why I really welcome out and I commend the broadening of the agenda for this year's Energy Roundtable beyond electrification to think about sustainable energy for all, and including affordable clean cooking technologies, as we've heard earlier. Now we have seen the promising cookstove pilots across the whole of the country, and I'm sitting here imagining the benefits that could unfold to the women of Sierra Leone if each of us, all the partners here present, decided now to help widen access to these life-changing appliances. Listen, sometimes when I'm the 7th or 8th speaker, don't worry, I will forgive you for this one, my heart sinks. I think, what am I going to say? What am I going to say that's new? Maybe your heart sinks as well when you see this. But essentially, this is one area where I think coherence and a degree of repetition from all the speakers here today is important. You know, it's helpful if we all see these problem sets in a slightly similar way, because then I think the commitment to resolving these most difficult issues is stronger. Now, you've heard from many speakers here today. It's a moment of high stakes for the energy sector, politically and economically. It's no secret, as you've heard today, that the operators, both public and private, are losing money at a rate that's unsustainable, and that electricity prices in West Africa are amongst the highest in the world relative to incomes. Now, this roundtable alone isn't going to solve these complex issues, but I also, like the Ministry of Energy, am cautiously optimistic that together we can help bring these issues into a better state of equilibrium, and we must. Now, as the majority funder in the Bo-Kenema Transmission and Distribution Project alongside the African Bank, and the driving force in the development of 95 off-grid mini-systems, the UK is really proud to have walked some hard miles, and they were hard miles, together with government, towards energy access for communities. And you've rightly heard access being praised today. Now, we see the pricing dilemma that Sierra Leone faces, made more acute by Russia's war on Ukraine. But as a friend and partner, here for the long term, we also see that inaction on pricing is not an option. If the fiscal burden on EDSA on the budget, is not reduced, government's development agenda can only be held back. And that's why we hugely welcome the strong messages we have today about the effort to bring in private sector, private finance and know-how into EDSA, and the positive signal that this will send to investors and partners alike. Attracting investment into the energy sector at a faster rate is paramount. Sierra Leone needs more capacity for rapid and evidence decision-making, including a continuation of the coordinated approach between Ministry of Energy, Finance and inputs from local universities. The UK has become supporting this endeavour, together with government in coordination with the World Bank, and we certainly welcome other development partners getting engaged. Now, across the world, not just in Salone, utilities struggle to recover costs because of inefficiencies and leakages, and Salone's not alone on this. But we also know that enhanced governance practices deliver really strong results. So we encourage government to leave no stone unturned in applying non-tariff measures that can make energy affordable in the medium term. Strengthening EDSA, as you've heard from many, offers the potential for transformational improvement, as the Minister of Energy set out clearly. And in the off-grid space, let me be bold. We firmly believe that scale economies can reduce break-even tariffs over time to a point where they are commercially and politically sustainable. So we're asking government, the regulator and operators to seal that pricing decision as quickly as possible. Now, we know it's tough. I learned a phrase in Kuyo recently. We need for sekiai bed fat foot. And I try not to, still learning. This really is a tough gig. And I really welcome the recognition by the Minister of Energy and the government to think about this in the long term and to be ready for those tough decisions. That leadership will be noticed by the private sector. And I hope it will also allow other partners to forge on with their planned investments in the scale-up that they want to make. Now, we said taking a strategic approach is a tough gig, so let's conclude on some of the opportunities. I was really excited to welcome Salon Bobo Idris Elba last month to the UK to one of my receptions, the only reception where everybody RSVP'd. But I would say I was actually even more excited to welcome Octopus Energy as part of that. The onshore wind has been routed by Octopus Energy as part of their offer to government and to the people of Sherborough Island, working with the Sherborough Alliance partners. Government's progressive removal of the fuel subsidy has been a hugely important first step in the country's clean energy transition, and we commend it. Evidence tells us that abundant rainfall gives Sierra Leone a unique advantage in hydropower for renewable energy generation, especially systems that can store water to release when needed. And we do development a disservice if we do not hold a more open discussion on the opportunities to expand hydropower, and I'm really glad to see that's on the table. So to close, this is a time for vision, for collaboration, and for boldness. I welcome the presence of His Excellency, President Bio, to such a distinguished cast list of ministers, because it shows how important this agenda really is. And I also welcome the increasing examples of collaboration across ministries, with PCREF, Finance here today as well. I think that's incredibly motivating. And Sierra Leone should expect that focus on coordination and collaboration from development partners too. Helping government bring forward a single clean energy roadmap that we all get behind, not on our terms, but as partners in Sierra Leone's long-term development. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I wish everybody who's involved productive deliberation.
Thank you, High Commissioner. I hope I'm forgiven. I note that you did say that you expect that we work together with vision, collaboration, and boldness. I must say, it takes vision, collaboration, and boldness for CTI and Bedford. This time, it is my honor to call to the podium the CEO of the Clean Cooking Alliance, Madam Ifna Van der Lans, who is here, and it tells us how important clean cooking is in Sierra Leone, not just electricity. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone, esteemed guests, I'm truly delighted to join you today. First, allow me to extend my gratitude to the government of Sierra Leone for utilizing their platform to elevate clean cooking as an essential part of the country's energy transition and a stepping stone on their journey to climate resilience. Sierra Leone rightfully recognizes that addressing the clean cooking gap is not just a single priority. It is a nexus priority intertwining climate, energy, gender, nature, and health. This is not just an isolated women's issue. This is the issue holding together our ambitions for sustainable development, net zero just transitions, and gender equality. More than 10 years ago, after the founding of the Clean Cooking Alliance, the organization I'm privileged to lead, we see a growing momentum acknowledging clean cooking as the foremost energy and climate issue in Africa. Today, African heads of states and their governments are setting ambitious targets and rallying support. For example, Sierra Leone has shown deep leadership in this issue, prioritizing clean cooking access and announcing, alongside Kenya, the establishment of the first clean cooking delivery unit last year. Sierra Leone's delivery unit will sit within the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security, under the guidance of Dr. Nkela, who has been an unwavering champion of the clean cooking issues for decades. By having a clean cooking delivery unit, the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Environment can be brought together to build rigorous clean cooking carbon frameworks. Progress against national targets can be tracked and recorded. Policies can be refined to encourage more private sector investment. Financing across the financing stack can be secured, and clean cooking can be embedded into national health, climate, gender, and development agendas in a whole-of-government approach. CCA is honored to be working with Sierra Leone and Dr. Nkela to establish and support this clean cooking delivery unit. The delivery unit here at Sierra Leone will have a very essential mandate: to build an investment case for private enterprises market entry, and identify specific needs for blended finance instruments, to model clean cooking transition scenarios as part of Sierra Leone's integrated energy planning, to implement projects that bridge clean cooking as an integral nature-based solutions, and to support institutional cooking transitions for schools, orphanages and hospitals, just to name a few. But of course, all of this requires financing. This isn't a challenge that can be solved with incremental funding. It requires a substantial shift in financial commitments. Both private investment and public spending in the hundreds of millions are imperative. We need increased private finance from impact funds, private equity, and commercial banks. We need increased investment into clean cooking carbon projects, and we need increased funding from public funders, including bilaterals and philanthropies. Public funding plays an important role as an enabler for greater amounts of commercial funding and carbon finance. Your Excellency, the Clean Cooking Alliance remains resolute in supporting the government of Sierra Leone, seeking to foster sustainable and vibrant markets that deliver services customers want and can afford, and that can attract diverse capital to the sector, all backed by rigorous scientific evidence and nationally owned strategies. I'm incredibly excited to participate in the next 2 days of dialogue and to collectively chart an ambitious but achievable pathway for Sierra Leone's energy transition, including access to clean cooking. Thank you.
Thanks, Lifta, for articulating the connection between environment and energy. We at the Ministry of Energy deal a lot more with electricity than with clean cooking. So it's good that you could articulate it and bring to the fore the importance of it. And that is really a good segue to introduce our next speaker, who has been a champion of clean cooking for quite a long time. He is the founding director of SE4, you correct me, sir, if that was an incorrect statement. I now call to the podium the Chairman, Presidential Initiative on Climate, Renewable Energy and Food Security, Dr. Candid Dukel.
Excellency President Julius Malabio, Excellency the Chief Minister, Excellency the Minister of Energy, all protocols observed. I'm very pleased to be with you this morning. I'm happy that in fact so many people have responded, especially so many from the private sector, to be here at this round table. I am sure the private sector is convinced that we are on a deep path towards greater reform in the energy sector. Mr. President, on Friday, we were led by the Minister of Agriculture to Tonobo, and we saw the practical impact of access to energy. We saw in Tonobo 15 acres of land with rice ready for harvest in March. You don't see that in Sierra Leone. And the minister said, that was their second crop. He said, imagine if we had 3 crops here on 50,000 hectares. You see the enabling power of energy. Why? That 15 hectares was possible because they pumped water from the river just next door. The river was just about 20 meters. But they had to pump it. The minister walked in the middle. There were women standing in the rice field with rice in March, ready for harvest. It is possible in Tomobo. It is possible for 200,000 hectares. Tomobo alone, irrigated, helps the president and Sierra Leone achieve a great part of our food security needs. One location, 250,000 hectares, just waiting to be plowed, but it needs to be irrigated. 3 crops rather than 1. The drawback, Mr. President, was they were using diesel. And we know the economics will make that rice too expensive. But just imagine if that was powered by solar. So as I look at all the helpers we have, the development partners, I just said to the president has told me a lot about Tomobo, but it was good going there now to see practically an NGO growing 2 crops of rice. And they would have used 3. There was another private sector group. And of course the minister said, imagine if we just do 50,000 hectares in the next 2 years. So Hashish, I like the roadmap. We want to invite you to talk about. Because it's all about nexus. Energy is an enabler. The British ambassador just mentioned about health. But think about the flagship. If we can grow 3 crops on 300,000 hectares, yes, we save money, we feed people, we create jobs. That's the essence of the roundtable. It's not energy by itself. It's the enabling power of energy. That's why some of us dedicated 30 years of our life and professional life to dealing with the energy issue. And we're very pleased with the partnerships, but it is clear that this country is on a pathway and we can achieve that. So I needed to bring that human element, the nexus element. But Mr. President, also, when Tomabong was very hot, we've been told by the Met this is an exceptionally hot year, probably one of the hottest on record. But then we got to go and it started to drizzle. Started to drizzle in March, in Bo. Again, accentuating the importance of the changing climate. That will affect production systems if it rains before we need it. The farmers need to plow. Let us pray it doesn't really rain. Then it will mess up all our planning. So that nexus of climate, energy, food security, jobs, and growth is very clear to all of us. Another issue, I saw an article in The Guardian recently. It was published on the 15th of March, and I needed to bring it to this forum because Hashish, in your presentation you said we need 890 million. And I was sitting there wondering how much of that can come from climate finance. We don't have it. It will take time, the private sector will come in. But how much of that will come to climate finance? So it reminded me of an article I read in The Guardian. And the title is, "We don't know where the money is going, the carbon cowboys are making millions of credit schemes." The article describes how, they call them, it's not my word, but it's now in the climate literature, carbon cowboys. Individuals come to the developing country now and acquire land and forests. But we as a government, we as a people, we don't know the value of the carbon. We don't know how it's traded. So our treasury cannot get the millions they need. But if we use those green assets, maybe we can find some of the money for the private sector. Maybe we can find the cash, Ashish, you know the models around the world, to buy down that tariff, but also to de-risk those investments. And in fact, invest in a place like Tomabong to grow more rice for our people. So we need, I had the privilege 10 days ago to address a subcommittee of the British Parliament focused on carbon cowboys. It is a big issue for Africa. It is happening everywhere. It's almost like the Wild West. And in Sierra Leone it's happening. So we're proposing, we've been discussing with the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Environment, and of course we're approaching Abdi soon, that we begin to talk about rationalizing our carbon markets here in Sierra Leone. How do we make them generate more resources for building resilience in agriculture, in the economy as well? How would we use those resources for clean cooking solutions for our people? But more importantly, revenues for Ministry of Finance. We don't know if they're selling our carbon at $2. We don't know if it is $20. Part of that is supposed to be at the Treasury. It will not happen if we don't have a regulated market. It will be the Wild West. And I know people who claim they own 10,000 hectares, 5,000 hectares in Sierra Leone. I don't know what they trade. We just don't know. It is opaque. And of course, we can support the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Environment to quickly come up with the right regulations for carbon trading in our country. Finally, we're very pleased that this collaboration has worked well. We're very pleased with the leadership that Honorable Kanja Sise and his team have provided. We're supporting them, we're supporting the Ministry of Agriculture. We also hope we can support the Ministry of Environment in their own endeavors as well. Mr. President, to close again, it is about embedding energy solutions across the country in all our activities. And here today, in the next 2 days, in fact, you will see presentations. The electrification roadmap has been presented. You'll see also from Sustainable Energy for All, the work that is going on the Just Energy Transition Plan and the greening of this economy. And also, we want to thank FCDO already. They've embedded an expert within the Ministry of Energy for planning. They're also planning to support about 6 people from Sierra Leone to go for 3 weeks of training on planning. You have to plan. You have to model. In fact, the vision is to create a hub of what we call data to deal. We do a lot of analysis, but those analyses are not leading yet to enough projects. We have to make deals, energy deals, we call it in the climate space. So how do we move from analysis to deals, real investments on the ground to make that roadmap we presented earlier work? And this gives me the best example. This I've discussed with President and people know my views on it. Maybe we can shorten that time for that roadmap before 2030 if indeed we tackle Bumbuna. Bumbuna is our best hydro project. It can be combined with solar. An additional 55 megawatts of Bumbuna analyzed already. 2 turbines, Ashish, can be done in 18 months. We double the capacity of Bumbuna. We add another 200 megawatts. We would have tripled the capacity within 2 years. We can shorten the roadmap if we think a little harder and harvest the low-hanging fruits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kambi Mikela. And now it is my pleasure, to introduce the Minister of Finance, the man at the Treasury, who will make a statement on the state of finance and energy. Minister Sheku Fantamaki Bangura.
Thank you very much, MC, Your Excellency, Chief Minister, colleague ministers, members of Parliament, partners, members of the diplomatic corps, private sector, for the state. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to join in this round table, and I believe Minister Kanja and team, and all of us in the bank and across government, we actually thoughtfully crafted the agenda today. And the idea was, I think it's coming out very clearly now, trying to explore all the priority issues and evaluate how we collaborate with solutions that can actually address our most immediate but also medium-term challenges for enhancing the delivery of the energy sector. I think it's coming out very clearly now. And from where I sit as Minister of Finance, I just want to throw insights on some of the critical issues that I think have come out very clearly and frankly. Energy is the fulcrum of the transformation of the state. It has to be gotten right. But when you do it with spending money. But the money has to be spent in the way that it's self-generated, because it's the most needed service to be able to transform a country. In the Ministry of Finance, let me shed light on subsidies. I've had the Minister catalog in a very clear way all the efforts that has been made in the last 10 years, and phenomenally in the last 5 years, to leap the sector upwards, whether it's from distribution, transmission, generation, but also effective management of the utility support. And glaringly, we have challenges, and we did not keep quiet on them, and he was frank about them. I think that's very good for this session, sir. Subsidies have been a bane, because EDSA itself has not been able to generate the kind of revenue from the utility sector. And I'm happy our partners have come out very clearly. And the numbers are huge. In the last 5 years, more than $100 million have been pumped into the sector as a form of cash subsidy. Could have gone into some important areas that HE wants to deliver on. But that's what we face. I think we are confronting it openly. It's important to speak about it because it's not sustainable. I think it's come out very clearly. And we spend on IPPs. for them to be able to generate power for us, especially during the dries. And that's been costly. We do provide other forms of non-cash subsidies as well, whether it's in the form of import GST or even we give waivers. But we do even spend on debt servicing of the sector itself, close to over 40 million over this period. Those are huge resources to the sector. So I'm very happy that Mr. Minister, you're frank about this, partners are frank about this, and I'm glad that the bank is able to lay out some roadmap, very clearly, some plan, with targeted deadlines on how you think we can be able to address this all altogether. So that's very good. And we are financing the 7 district headquarter towns, the clear vision of His Excellency. I think Mr. Kanya did, allude to all the things we are doing here. Fully financed on the budget. These are places that are for 40 years were dark. We invested in the transmission lines, but also we brought on board generators. They are not the best of generators you will imagine, but that's a bold step we took to ensure that we unlock light and energy to start bringing those economies along. We can do better going forward, but we have to make sure that those places are lit up and then people start enhancing their library. Despite significant subsidy support to the sector, and over the years, we still see extra struggling. But I'm very happy, and we are sure that this will not be tenable, but I'm happy that at least we have embraced, and that's through His Excellency initiative that was spearheaded by the Minister for private participation in ETSA. And I'm happy that at least with the bank, we do have 2 sets of interventions coming from private sector to go and enhance the capacity of this entity. It should not be loss-making. Cannot be loss-making. And I think we need to block all those goals. If you have a private entity really investing into ETSA operations, we can make very good progress. I want to thank you very much for that being the case. But for operational efficiency, management capacity, even for billing, and the entire commercial viability, I think with that effort that you have done, we should be able to do much more there. And I just want to say on power trade, which I think is very important, regional power trade, we've been doing a lot, and I'm happy the Minister alluded to most of the kind of effort that is happening in that space. And I think Transco and CLSG have been proving to be very valuable in Sierra Leone. And I believe when I got to see the numbers, they are selling cheaper energy than what we are having at home as our base power, which is on the IDP. We need to ensure that we can actually expand on the opportunities that sit there, especially from Côte d'Ivoire, but I think potentially as well from Guinea. Right? So I'm very happy that those engagements are going on. And there are other sorts of investments that I've seen even when I travel from Kenema to go, which the Minister alluded to make sure that we expand on the generation capacity there, but also improve on transmission and distribution capacity, even between Go and Kenema. So that's very, very, very good. From my ministry side, I think the real challenge that we have is with the regional power, we should not be pulling them. Especially when the cost of generating power from their source is cheaper. But we carry those costs with us. Why am I frank about this? It is for partners to understand exactly the challenges that we face in ensuring that this sector is self-financing on its own. So there are cheaper energy we are getting from trade, but we have to ensure that we can pay for that cheaper energy by making sure that the sector itself can be self-financed. So I thought I should bring this out, over $25 million that are owed in arrears to some of these entities that are out there. So these are things that are over years. That's what has been the case. So we have to make sure that we handle them. As far as I'm concerned, I think I should bring that up very clearly. We are very much committed, sincerely, to work with our partners on ensuring that whatever reforms are required, we do those reforms and make sure that the entity itself, which is the distribution ETSA is viable, self-sustaining, and become a very strong off-taker, national off-taker power supply within Sierra Leone. For all the people who are interested in investing in the sector. We unbundle the sector, people can come and actually invest in generation, but for the off-taking capacity, I think something needs to be done there. Now, on the mini grids, I think I should speak to this as well. I also support extensive investment in mini grid, reaching the far and remote places in the country, but also at least allowing for certain services, sales, for example, or education, access to light in health facilities. I think it's phenomenal, it's transformational. But there is a resultant lack of effective demand, clearly demonstrated, to make a financial sense of those investments. So the deeper thinking is required here as well, to see exactly how we incentivize investment in mini grids. One of the biggest challenges has to do with the per unit price, the basic tariff for these energy sources, which is over 65 cents per kilowatt hour for poor people out there. So I believe this is something that we need to discuss very deeply with our partners on how do you ensure that you buy down the cost of those power. Some form of a subsidy support is actually required because we who are in the center of the city, we are having bigger power to do what? For those who can afford. But there's power out there for those who cannot afford. It's a very difficult challenge for leaders to be able to sell that to the public. So it's something that requires deep thoughts, and I thought it is important that we mention that here. And we do provide a lot of incentives for mini grids. Because what I did in 2023 Finance Act actually eliminated GST and other related taxes on mini grid investments and their operations. So that's not there anymore. So we will be seeking clear support on how we buy down the cost of those services, giving the phenomenal contribution that they are making down at the last mile. Let me just touch on climate resilience and energy transition, and I wish to highlight how climate change threatens Sierra Leone, given where we lie, and I think the nexus that Dr. Imbera has actually pointed out. So, but we must focus, in my view, on ensuring that low carbon energy systems must be part of the narrative here in Sierra Leone. And we have solar, we have wind potential, and hydro. Because I think Sierra Leone is actually a renewable energy potential generating country to provide base power, actually. So I think even your point, Ashish, that let's try and see how best we can move faster out of HFO. I think that's feasible in my view. However gradual we do that, but it is feasible. And so let's see how partners join us in actualizing most of these concessions that have been given out there, whether it's for hydro, as the minister points out to be Congo, for example, whether it's for respite, we make sure that we have a proper handle on them. But I want to also urge our partners to assist us in accessing the complex climate resources that are out there, because I think they are very huge opportunities for us to be able to invest in unlocking the energy potentials that are in Sierra Leone. Let me give my appeal. The Minister of Energy and I are partners in these challenges, in addressing these challenges. And I want to emphasize that it is critical our partners also join us. One of the critical challenges that I have seen in the sector as well is ensuring faster disbursement for critical investments that are locked, reaching financial close in time on some of the ones that we are giving to private sector, or even those that are come up as renewable energy opportunities. They take a longer time to be able to free us of the stress that we face on the fiscals. If we deliver on the timelines on the projects that are locked in already, then we should be able to predict exactly when are we going to be going off very expensive power supply. I think that's very important to comprehend at this stage. And then if you help us on the projects that are out there, I know the US DFC is supporting an LNG, a very transformational renewable investment in the country. It should happen in time. The bank is investing on respite. It should happen faster in time. Those and other projects that are out there that we have given to private partners to develop for hydros and the like, we have to expedite the timing. Because what we are not being able to do enough is having a non-stop date on some of those investments. When you lock them, if you don't deliver after a certain number of years, you're supposed to take them away from you and find another partner. So really, otherwise we get locked in a development trap where valuable investments that are supposed to take place within a short period of time, we delay and delay and delay, up to a decade sometimes with some of them. So I think it's important to have that clearly, and we call on you as partners really. Appeal is simple: expedient, timely closure and disbursement of locked-in investment in the sector is critical. We call you to join us. I close, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, that we in the government will pledge transparency, prudent management of resources that will be put in the hands of the sector, so that at least we'll be able to ensure that we deliver timely development. I think it's important to give you that assurance. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, thank you for that impassioned speech. It seemed as if I was sitting at a one-on-one discussion between you and the donors, given the number of topics you covered, very frankly: arrears, challenges with EDSA, mini-grid tariffs, and then the delay of releasing of funds held by private developers. Thank you for that. And now I would like to call the Honorable Minister of Energy, Alhaji Kandis Hussein, who will provide the introduction to His Excellency, the President. Thank you.
Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he is in his second term, the first year of the second term of his presidency of the Republic of Sierra Leone. He's gone 6 months into the first year, and it's like the 6th year as President of the Republic. And therefore, what is there for me to say to introduce a man who's been president for almost 6 years now? Other than saying that he's been a champion of many reforms in our country. He's been a man who's taken many bold steps in very critical sectors like health, agriculture, education, energy. And in many of these sectors, Sierra Leone has taken its rightful, very high position in the global stage. And therefore, I wouldn't want to waste your time, but to have the honor and privilege to invite His Excellency, retired President Julius Malema, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, to give back.
Thank you very much. Let's sit down, please. Don't sleep. Don't sleep, please. I was doing the same, that's why I'm on Mr. Chairperson, Chief Minister, Ministers of Government, Chairman of the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security, Members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, our development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First, I wish to express my gratitude to the Minister and team for putting together another energy sector round table meeting with the theme Countdown to 2030, Sustainable Energy for All. Ladies and gentlemen, A sustainable, reliable, and adequate energy supply is a critical contributor to the transformational development of any society. And bearing in mind that renewable energy available to us as a nation, sustainable energy for all by 2030, especially renewable energy, is a possibility in Sierra Leone. However, transitioning these resources into usable energy for domestic and commercial purposes is a daunting task and also a costly one, as you've heard already. This is why this energy roundtable is important and timely, as it creates a platform for us all to discuss this particular issue. My presence here, and perhaps for all of you also, is an indication of the priority that we place on the issue of energy, with particular emphasis on availability and access by Sierra Leoneans, irrespective of geographical regions. I therefore would like to join the Minister and team in welcoming all of you to this event as partners and critical stakeholders, or even beneficiaries. The theme, Countdown to 2030, Sustainable Energy for All, resonates well with the structure, spirit, and intent of our government's medium-term National Development Plan that was recently launched at the Bintumani Conference Center. The medium-term National Development Plan is anchored within the time frame of 2024-2030, and energy availability is one of the key drivers to deliver on the pillars of the plan. Ladies and gentlemen, I know, as you do, that this is a daunting task. But I'm convinced that with determination and sincere commitment, backed by honest partnership and devotion from energy sector stakeholders, it could be achieved. Let us be positive and be resolute and determined to explore every opportunity that science and technology can offer us to ensure that Sierra Leone benefits from the 21st century energy solutions in securing universal energy access and energy transition. Our government remains committed to working with all partners and actors, both national and international, to co-create an ecosystem that would facilitate the provision and access to energy for all. Ladies and gentlemen, the previous roundtable in October 2022 did provide a framework to guide collaborative partnership in providing Sierra Leone's energy sector forward. In 2024, my expectation is that we should be scaling up from just the identification of gaps and challenges to discussing and preferring comprehensive and lasting solutions to our energy situation. The second term of this administration is a little above 4 years to its expiration, and 6 years down to 2030 countdown limit. The current reality paints a picture of impossibility. We can only currently boast of 35% access to electricity. The need to accelerate our effort is highly demanding, but we can achieve our goal if we remain committed and vigilant. So let me remind all of us present that the new direction vision was also formulated in very difficult circumstances. Many we are of the belief that it was never achievable. Despite facing unprecedented global challenges, our focus on human capital development yielded tangible results. Today, Sierra Leone boasts of improvements in its education indices, including achieving gender parity at the primary school level. The philosophy of the new direction was transformed into an agenda used as a catalyst to enable government to take advantage of new opportunities while addressing emerging issues. In 2024, the government's tenure in this term is driven by the commitments made in our 2023 manifesto and elucidated in the medium-term national development plan with a focus on the big 5 game changers. You are very conversant with those: fixed alone, human capital development, youth employment scheme, technology and infrastructure program, revamping the public service architecture. Ladies and gentlemen, the big 5 game changers were carefully crafted, taking note of Sierra Leone's peculiar development aspirations, but also mindful of ensuring that the country continues to meet all its global commitments and obligations. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 7 is about ensuring access to clean and affordable energy, which is key to the development of agriculture, business, transportation, etc. Energy is therefore critical to helping us deliver on our medium-term national development plan, which has as its first and major pillar, Fixed Alone initiative. As engrafted in the SDG 7, there can hardly be any meaningful national transformation without the country being energy sufficient. This implies that our vision for transforming Sierra Leone should also be a vision of Sierra Leone with abundant transformation in energy generation. If we have to accelerate the development of our country, then we have to move away from the development of temporary energy solutions as we have now to long-lasting and affordable baseload energy supply. So I think I want to encourage all players, including our development partners, that we have resources and potential that need to be developed within the country and can be done so almost immediately. So let's pay attention to these potentials and also avoid the hemorrhaging of our economy. We are working hard, but we spend all of that on energy in ways that are not beneficial to our country. Our baseload supply should be able to catalyze productive use of at all levels. Sierra Leone needs affordable energy and not that one that is saddled with debt. Now we are talking about nearly 100 million United States dollars. And this is quite incapacitating for ETA and EGTC and reducing citizens to the never-ending cycle of energy poverty. This is not good for our people. This is not good for us as a government. And I dare say that this is not good for even our partners. We are smart enough to find solutions that can work. There are several barriers on the way to come down to 2030 sustainable energy for all in Sierra Leone. We have to genuinely and sincerely reconsider those agreements that seem to slow down our energy transition. We have to tamper down some of the bureaucracies and conditions that have been crafted in our partnership engagements. that is slowing down our progress. The Ministry of Energy, EXA, and EGTC, we all have our parts to play in this countdown to 2030 sustainable energy for all to be a reality. We must make sincere commitments for our dream of 2030 to come true. I will choose a time very soon to talk to EXA and EGTC. In as much as we are partners, I think we have to be committed, genuinely. If we say that energy is such an enabler that we cannot develop without it, then it becomes an existential thing in this world. And therefore, we should use our heads, contacts, and commitment, energy, time, to make sure we provide that. The sector is there for that. We cannot be providing excuses all the time and making it very expensive for our people, and making it more expensive even, before I get there, I have to talk about it. The mini-grid, solar mini-grids in the regions are even more expensive. That is not fair. That is social injustice. We are discriminating against those in the regions. In the villages, they pay about 65 cents. And we are paying about 16, 17, and we still grumble here. That is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to encourage us and our partners to really tackle that. We took energy to the regions so that they can be engaged in productive activities, not just to light a bulb on their verandas or roofs, but to be able to use it for productive uses. And we are charging them 65 cents, and we are paying 17 cents here. And yet, we grumble. Yes, ours is high, but what about theirs? Do we want them to be part of this? Is this inclusivity in development? No. I've been grumbling about this, but I thought I should share it with all stakeholders. And I've told the minister that it is just unacceptable to charge somebody here 16, 17 and go to my village and they have to pay 65 cents. What do you want them to do with that? Do we want to further impoverish them? That's the only thing. That is unacceptable. And I think it should be on our agenda for discussion here. Similarly, there is a parallel need for all Sierra Leoneans to develop a deeper sense of patriotism and trust in each other. We should foster a culture that protects our national infrastructure, especially our energy supply facilities. This is a harm not only to government or to EXA or to the Ministry of Energy, but a greater harm to our communities that are direct beneficiaries. We've had politically motivated activities that target transformers only in Sierra Leone. I've never heard about it anywhere else in the world. That people target infrastructure meant to service or serve people. A lot of transformers. At the time I stopped counting, we were about 56, have been vandalized. So, for us as citizens of this country, we have to be frank as to where we want to go. But we want to be at the bottom. This is frustrating and this must stop forthwith. The workers in the energy agencies should also adopt ethical, non-corrupt practices in the provision of services. All of us have our parts to play for the countdown to 2030 sustainable energy for all to be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 years ago, I outlined the critical initiatives necessary for progress in Sierra Leone's energy sector. And those initiatives remain abundantly relevant today as they were. I crave your indulgence to reiterate these as a way of emphasis. One is the financing of the energy sector. We must transition to a financially sustainable model that attracts investment. The government still continues to struggle with the sparing cost of generating and distributing electricity. We are still paying millions of dollars in subsidies to keep light on and make energy affordable for citizens. We have to divest from blindly providing subsidies to a financially sustainable model. And this is where I will encourage us and our partners to quickly fast-track the private sector intervention in this area. I broached this idea about 2 years ago, and as I speak, we are still trying to look for an advisor to tell us how we can give this sector to the private sector, how we can give this area to the private sector. This is far too long. We have wasted enough time, and I hope that we can fast track from now onward. Regional intervention. We must continue to leverage our regional energy connectivity in a mutually beneficial manner. The Transport CLSG provides opportunity for increased regional connectivity. The work of the West African Power in promoting competition is a welcome opportunity as it will lower electricity costs. In my opinion, the regional energy connectivity has the potential to transform Sierra Leone, but we should not only be consumers of electricity, but also generators. Now we are debtors. In just 2 years, we have become debtors. This cannot work. We must, and this is really meant for those in the sector, from the minister to the last man standing there in the energy sector. We must show commitment. We must have fire in us to want to change. As education is changing, as we are changing the food security, as we have liberated the women of this country to be part of this, as we have liberated the journalists to practice freely, as we have taken up the death penalty, we should be audacious also to stand up for Sierra Leone, for energy for all. The World Bank has, this is the Regional Emergency Solar Power Intervention Respite Project. The World Bank has evaluated the pressures, aspiring oil prices, and other costs for our economy, and proposed the Regional Emergency Solar Power Intervention Respite Project, which has been referred to here. This regional intervention is much needed in the short term, as it also supports the energy transition. Sierra Leone continues to embrace cleaner energy sources while ensuring reliability. In line with our global commitments on climate action, we stand ready to build a greener and more sustainable energy future. We are all in for energy transition, but we require a practical approach. We do not want to sacrifice development opportunities that require reliable and affordable baseload energy for temporary generation at the same time. I expect that this roundtable will provide guidance on how to mobilize climate finance for this purpose and also forge just energy partnerships. And that is where I fully support what the chairman of the presidential initiative has continuously spoken about. We should be not be at the receiving end of another period, but also benefit from all the arrangements that is going for climate finance. The MCC Compact. Government remains definitely committed to upholding democratic norms and values at all times as an anchor for promoting inclusive and sustainable development for all Sierra Leoneans. our close collaboration with MCC on these critical principles and the proposed compact presents a real opportunity to put Sierra Leone on the path to just energy transition. We also hope to leverage the proposed compact to cultivate partnerships with private sector stakeholders by undertaking deep reforms that can improve social sector performance and credibility. Rural electrification and mini-grids. I've already spoken about this, and I think the message is quite clear. We cannot continue to keep our people out of the city in poverty. That's not what we promised. We promised inclusive growth and development. Ladies and gentlemen, my government welcomes additional investment in the sector by existing operators, development partners, and interested investors. We are ready to talk. We are ready to sit down and talk. The Ministry of Energy will continue to explore options to enhance the enabling environment. The UN SDGs have a window of 6 years to go, and our government is committed to addressing energy poverty as a national priority. Expanding access, we unlock our country's economic potential, modernize key sectors, and foster human capital development. With increased investment, we can make our economy more productive, recover quickly from economic shocks, and alleviate poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let us seize this moment to reaffirm our commitment to sustainable energy for all. I'm saying, let us take this opportunity. All of us, partners, sector operators, ETSA, EGTC, the management of the ministry, and even those who are out there that are beneficiaries. We should stop looting and vandalizing national assets for political gains. Together, we can propel Sierra Leone towards a brighter and more prosperous future. Therefore, it gives me the pleasure to declare this energy roundtable officially open and to also launch the multi-tier electrification access framework. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that moving speech. If I may quote some of your speech, that was quite inspiring. You said we must make sincere commitments to make our dreams come true. You said you believe in our ability to solve all our problems. You spoke about the social injustice of tariffs. You spoke about the need for patriotism, productive use, and inclusivity in development. You were emphatic in calling us debtors of electricity. You spoke about, and you spoke to the workers of ETSA about the ethical commitment in their work, and you said that we needed to be audacious to stand up for energy for all. Thank you for that impassioned speech made at this roundtable today. Now I must call on the Press Secretary, Mr. Kaketoma Sandi, to lead us through the next session.
Thank you very much, Sid. His Excellency has graciously consented for photo opportunity, but because of the exigency of time, we only have 2 photo sessions, which will be conducted in the following manner at the lobby. The first photo session will comprise His Excellency the President, members of the High Table to be joined by Dr. Abdul Mwangi. And then the second photo session will comprise His Excellency the President, the Minister of Energy, representative of African Development Bank, United States Ambassador, the British High Commissioner, European Union Head of Mission, the CEO of Clean Cooking Alliance, and Ashish Khanna. Immediately after the national anthem, His Excellency may remain in the hall, while all those whose names have been announced make their way to the lobby to be positioned for the photo session in preparation for the Excellency the President. On that note, please rise for the national anthem.